The sun beat down hard on Ibadan that afternoon, kicking up dust from the road. The air was thick with the sounds of passing cars and the shouts from a nearby market. A yellow taxi pulled over, and a tired-looking man stepped out. His shoes were torn, his shirt was faded, and his bag looked old and dirty. No one watching would guess this man once owned private jets, or that he was one of the richest black businessmen in Europe. Nobody knew his real name was Wale Obadina. They just saw a poor man, standing quietly. He lifted his head and stared at the big gate in front of him. The very gate he had built with his own money. The house he had built for his parents. His heart pounded in his chest. He whispered to himself, "Let me see who still remembers me when I look like nothing." 20 years earlier, a young Wale Obadina had arrived in Germany with just one bag. People struggled with his Yoruba name, laughed at his accent, and looked down on him. One night, sitting alone in a small, cold room, he looked up at the ceiling and made a decision. If I keep this name, they will not respect me. I will change it. From that day on, he became Joshua Brown. He worked day and night, faced countless failures, and cried himself to sleep many times. But he never gave up. Slowly, the money started coming in. Then the contracts, the big clients, and his business expanded across countries, even back to Nigeria, into oil and refineries. People started calling him the richest black man in Germany, but his family never knew. To them, Wale had just gone abroad a long, long time ago. Back in the present, when Joshua's private jet landed in Nigeria, his secretary was confused. "Sir, why don't we go straight to the mansion? Your parents are waiting." Joshua just shook his head. "No. I want to test my family." The secretary grew worried. "Sir, this is dangerous. They might insult you." A sad smile touched Joshua's lips. "I want to see their hearts." He sent his team to Yaba Market to buy second-hand clothes, old shoes, and a dirty bag. He changed out of his expensive suit, left the comfort of his jet, and took public transport. Squeezed between strangers, feeling their disrespect, he smiled to himself. So this is how poor people feel every day. When the taxi dropped him off at the Badija estate, he walked slowly to the gate. The gateman opened it just a crack, his eyes scanning Wale from head to toe. He almost slammed it shut. "Who are you?" Wale's voice was gentle. "I am Wale, Mama Wale's son." The gateman let out a small, mocking laugh. You look like a beggar." Wale swallowed hard. "My brother, please, just call Mama Wale." The gateman disappeared inside, grumbling. A moment later, Mama Wale came running out. "Where is my son?" Her eyes went wide when she saw him, but she didn't hesitate for a second. She ran and threw her arms around him. "My son, welcome home." Tears streamed down her face. She turned and shouted at the gateman, "Why are you looking at him like that? Open this gate properly." In that moment, something inside Wale broke. "My mother still sees me as her son, not my clothes." Mama Wale cooked his favorite food. She washed his worn-out clothes with her own hands and prepared his old room. That night, she prayed by his bedside. "God, thank you for bringing my son home safely." Lying there, Wale felt tears welling up in his eyes. He thought of Germany, the cold nights, the lonely rooms, the vast wealth that couldn't buy the warmth of family. Here, even with nothing, love felt so real. By evening, the compound was buzzing with whispers. Neighbors pointed and talked. He came back poor. He must have failed abroad. He wasted his life. Wale heard it all but remained silent. His mind drifted back to the times he was rich in Nigeria, even before he left. He remembered building shops for his brother David, giving money to his other brother Joel, paying his sister's school fees, and building this very mansion in Badija that made them all millionaires. He remembered their wide smiles back then. Now, he wanted to see their true hearts. The expensive cars started rolling in. David arrived first, looking like a big man in fine clothes, flanked by security. He frowned at Wale. "Is this true?" Then Joel and his wife arrived, whispering to each other. Tun came, then his sisters. Everyone sat down, but no one greeted him warmly. A heavy silence filled the living room. Finally, his sister Grace stood up. "Brother, you've embarrassed us." "Just look at you," David quickly added. "I'm contesting an election." "This is terrible for my image." Will just looked down, thinking, so this is how love ends. Mama Whale stood up, her body shaking with anger. "All of you are ungrateful." They fell silent, but their eyes were still filled with resentment. Late in the evening, his father, Papa Emmanuel, walked in, leaning on his stick. He took one look at Whale and shook his head in disgust. "You have brought shame upon this family." Whale slowly raised his head. But Papa Emmanuel cut him off. "You should go to the village. This house is for successful people." The room went cold. Mama Whale began to cry. Whale's heart burned with pain, but he kept his composure. At that very same time, miles away in Germany, Joshua Brown's company was in a panic. Phones were ringing off the hook. Major contracts were on hold. The board members were frantic. "Where is our chairman?" But their chairman was sitting quietly in Ibadan, watching his family drama unfold. The next morning, Papa Emmanuel delivered the final blow. "You will leave tomorrow." His siblings all agreed. Only Mama Whale protested. Whale stood there quietly, then walked towards the gate. He pulled out his phone and dialed a number. "Bring the car." Minutes later, a black convoy of luxury cars with security guards swept into the compound. Neighbors rushed out. His family stood there, utterly confused. The secretary stepped out of the lead car and bowed deeply. "Good afternoon, Chairman." Everyone froze. Whale took off his dirty cap and stood up straight. His voice was different now, full of authority. "My name is Joshua Brown." A collective gasp went through the crowd. "My real name is Whale Abadina." Silence. He continued slowly. "I own the refinery you see on TV. I own the companies you hear about on the radio. I tested you." Some people collapsed onto the ground. Others started shaking. David dropped his phone. Grace covered her mouth in shock. Papa Emmanuel's walking stick clattered to the floor. Mama Whale cried out, "My son!" Immediately, the apologies started. "We didn't know, please, forgive us." But Whale raised his hand. "Stop." His voice was calm but firm. "I saw your hearts." Tears filled his eyes as he turned to his mother and held her hand. "I stayed because of you." He then turned to Papa Emmanuel and his siblings. He looked at the big house, at the gate, and then back at their stunned faces. He spoke slowly, pausing between words. "This house, this money, this family," everyone held their breath. "What I will do next." He stopped talking, turned, and got into the black car. The door shut, the engine roared to life. Nobody knew. Was he coming back? Was he taking everything away? Would he forgive them? Or was he leaving forever? Mama Whale ran after the car, crying his name. "Whale!" The car drove out slowly, kicking up dust, just as it had been when he arrived. And the family was left standing there, waiting, not knowing what tomorrow would bring. If this story touched your heart, support African Stories by liking and subscribing. More powerful stories are coming your way.